Web media. In this lesson, we're going to look at adding sound and video to our web pages and creating podcasts. I want you to be able to compare sound formats and determine which are best for web pages, explain the difference between sharing and downloading media, describe the methods for adding media to a website, follow the steps to add media to a website, give examples of how podcasts are used, and create a podcast and add a feed. Sound file formats. Lossless compression files are essentially copies of the original source. Common formats are the Windows-based WAV for waveform audio format and the Mac-based AIFF for audio interchange file format. Because they are near copies of the original, they lend themselves to archiving and being used as a master. Distribution copies tend to be lossy because they are much smaller. They reduce the size of the audio recording by eliminating some of the data. The most well-known lossy file format is the MP3 format, but there are several others including WMA or Windows Media Audio, Apple's AAC Advanced Audio Coding, and RM for Real Media. You should use a lossy compression for sound on a web page to minimize download time. Which format you use depends on several factors, including the file size, the platforms like computers or mobile devices that visitors to your website will use, quality issues. The most universally accepted file format is MP3. Broadband or high-speed internet connections are excellent for playing web media. Streaming is the process that allows a media file to begin to play before it is completely loaded onto a page. In order to stream, the audio file must be converted to a lossy compressed format. Encoding software changes media files from one format to another and can be used to create streaming media. Other output option is to make the file downloadable. Placing the sound on the page. 3 ways to place the sound on the page include embedding the sound file, embedding the media player, and adding a hyperlink. The term embedding indicates that the sound file will reside on the web page. Embedding the sound file. If you place the sound in the head section of the page and use the autoplay command, it will play as soon as the page is open, without giving the user any control over the sound. One way around automatic play is to include some simple controls for the web visitor to use. You can use HTML5, which is a newer markup language supported by the W3C, to include both a sound file and a small audio player on your web page. By adding the autoplay attribute and setting the value to false, you ensure that the site visitors will have to activate the player to hear the sound, rather than it playing automatically. HTML5 is not finalized by the W3C, and not all browsers support all tags. When you're placing media in a website, it's a good thing to put yourself first in the position of the visitor to the site. How will they experience a particular feature? Only include the feature if you think it would truly be appealing or useful to potential visitors. Another option for placing sound in your web page is to write code that will insert one of the top media players. Each of the programs has a unique identifier called the class ID that must be included. You can also use a hyperlink. The simplest method for making a sound file available to web visitors is to keep it on the web server and create a hyperlink within the website. This keeps the audio optional for the user without adding features to the page that might slow down the web visitor's browser. Now with video. The main problem with videos is that the file sizes are much larger, so download time can be a barrier. It's very important to make them streaming. The file types for movies fall into 3 basic categories: Apple's QuickTime MOV, Windows Media Player MPG and AVI, and Real Player RAM. To help reduce file size, keep the size of the video screen small. Video quality at 30 frames per second makes for smooth video, but larger file sizes. 10 frames per second produces very choppy motion, but you get a much smaller file size. Methods for placing video on a website are the same as those for placing audio. Creating podcasts. Podcasting is a means of providing downloadable audio or video via the internet to anyone who wishes to access the media content. The name podcasting results from combining the words iPod and broadcasting. Podcasts are similar to radio or television shows that were once recorded on audio cassettes, video cassettes, or more recently on a digital video recorder. The advantage of podcasts is that the site visitors can download the files and then hear or view the broadcast whenever they want. Podcasts are made available using XML files. XML, for Extensible Markup Language, is a markup language specifically designed to hold and move data. XML and HTML differ in several ways. XML holds pockets of data. HTML describes how the data is to be displayed. XML does not have any set tags, HTML does. XML keeps the data separate from the method of presentation. XML is more device independent. XHTML is a combination of XML and HTML. The W3C recommends using a styling language called XSLT for extensible stylesheet language transformations. Your steps in creating a podcast. Making a podcast involves 4 basic steps: creating the file, saving the file in downloadable form, posting it to a web server, and inviting subscribers to your podcast. Podcasters can choose from among several different tools to increase the visibility of their podcasts and invite visitors to become subscribers. A subscriber is a web visitor who accepts notification of any updates to a podcast or a website that is frequently changing content. Creating the media file. Keep the content focused, be prepared for recording, and be sure that all participants can be equally heard. Also, share the microphone, be conscious of your audience, avoid distracting background noise, and with video, if you're doing a video podcast, you want to keep the camera steady. Saving your file. Podcasts are saved in the same file formats as other audio and video files meant for the web. For audio podcasts, MP3 files are the ideal choice. For video files, it's probably best to save the file in more than one format, such as MOV for QuickTime, WMV for Windows Media Player, or the H.264 format, which is a video format that's highly compressed and can be played across many platforms. Posting the file to a web server. Some companies have their own web servers which host their internet sites. IT staff can provide guidance on uploading podcast files. If a company purchases web hosting from a service, its staff will also provide instructions. Posting files will be similar to the process for posting web pages. It is possible to create podcasts without having a dedicated web server. The internet has free podcast media hosting sites. Another way to post a podcast is by opening a free blog on a site such as WordPress or Blogger. The final step in podcasting is getting your podcast recognized, and one method is to use a tool like Google's free FeedBurner. A feed is any electronic content and the process by which that content is syndicated. 2 types of feed. The RSS feed is one standard for syndicating web content, and it is an older standard, and Atom was developed more recently. An aggregator is software that collects and lists websites that have been syndicated. Inviting subscribers to your podcast. The FeedBurner service allows you to enter a category for your podcast so it will be listed in appropriate areas of iTunes and Yahoo's Media RSS aggregator. You can enter a description and keywords to provide more information about the podcast site. Each time you create a new podcast, FeedBurner will automatically recognize it and make that information available to anyone who subscribes to your site. You can also use FeedBurner to add icons called chiclets by the program, representing any of several aggregators. So some key thoughts to take away. Choosing a file format for audio files to be posted on the web is a matter of balancing quality, file size, and accessibility. Some file formats are only available on some platforms or operating systems and devices. The MP3 format, which is data compressed to a small size, is still the file format of choice because it can be played on a wide variety of systems. Media files can be streamed or downloaded. Streaming saves time for the user by making it possible for web visitors to listen to or hear the file before the whole file is downloaded. There are 3 methods for posting media on a website. To embed it by writing the code to place the media in either the head or the body with buttons or some other controls. To embed the media player along with the media by writing code to call up the media player referring to specific class ID of player. To create a hyperlink that sends the web visitor to another page to obtain the media using the standard tags for creating a hyperlink. And videos should be streamed rather than downloaded because files can be very large. Making the screen size smaller can help keep the file size small. Another way to make media available to the web visitor is in Podcast, which create downloadable media packets and invite users to subscribe to the service and to be notified of updates. Media companies use podcasts to make programs available to listeners and viewers. Businesses may post podcasts of important product announcements or other company news or to give customers information. Preparing for a podcast, whether an audio or video version, helps make a presentation of good quality. Podcast files should be saved in a downloadable format. They can be saved to a company-owned server or a web hosting service, whether it's paid or free. After uploading the file to the server, it's necessary to publish a link to the file, which can be done simply by creating a blog with a link to the media. And to make a podcast visible, the podcaster should set up the subscription service like an RSS feed that will be noticed by podcast aggregators and thus notify subscribers of updated content. Let me know if you have any questions.